Okay. Welcome to the January 27th, 2024 Planning Board meeting. June, what did I say?
January.
It's a long day.
We don't want to go backwards. Yes, it's June. I will make a roll call in the absence of the secretary. Vice Chair Definity.
Present.
Glorian Burke, secretary, is absent. Craig Catalanato.
Present.
George Mutu is absent. Tom Neely.
Present.
Kate Fulham is out. The chair is present. We have a quorum. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will call the applications in order. The first is 13A and 15. Do we have sufficient notice?
Waiting for.
I just want Christine to say we're okay. Christine, do we have notice on number one? Okay, good. Tom, do you want to read?
Okay. Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, June 27th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the pre-application entitled 13A and 15 Summit Boulevard. The application is for a two-lot subdivision and lot line modification on a 1.4-acre vacant property divided by the R20 and R40 zoning districts and New York State Archaeological Sensitive Area located at 13A and 15 Summit Boulevard within the hamlet of West Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-354-3-3.2 and 17.
Thank you.
The applicant, James Engel, 323 Mill Road, West Hampton Beach. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening.
So this application is really in two parts. The first part is the subdivision of approximately 1.4 acre vacant lot, which is landlocked just off of Summit Boulevard, with the address of 13A Summit. Access to this property is currently provided by a 20-foot wide easement over 15 Summit Boulevard, which brings me to the second part of the application, which is a boundary line modification for 15 Summit to permanently take a piece of property and give that property to the rear lot so that there's deeded access. We've submitted two different alternatives for the subdivision. And the reason why we did that is that it turns out the dividing line between the R40 and the R20 goes approximately east-west across the middle of the rear lot. And it's my understanding that under town law, town regulations, the more restrictive zoning applies. So one of the proposals is a north-south, essentially, division line, which would create two lots of 30 and 35,000 square feet approximately, both of which would then need zoning board relief for the size, because neither of them are 40,000 square feet. The other alternative that we've shown is creating a smaller 20,000 square foot lot, which is solely within the R20, and creating a 40,000 square foot lot, which is for the most part in the R40, which eliminates that variance, but has kind of a strange connection to the lots if you look at the surveys that we proposed. That's why we provided two of them to get some input from the board as to which direction you thought would be the best way to proceed.
And how will they take access to that strip?
Well, my client owns both properties, so assuming you approve of the boundary line modification for 15 Summit, we will then deed it over to the rear lot. And then we would provide only, we probably have to have two 10-foot strips to connect to the two rear lots, but we would obviously propose a single access to both of those lots. We're only proposing 20 feet is because that's what we have an easement for right now, across 15 Summit.
Do we have a plan?
Yeah, I can pull it over here if you want, if they're up there as well.
So there are three variations?
Two.
Two
Yes,
variations.
we submitted to, there was a third variation which we decided we didn't care for. And so we didn't even file that, but that's why one of the options is option A and the second option is option C. But there are actually only two options, this being one of them. And as you can see, in this configuration, both lots cross the R40, R20 lot line. And you have that little extension in the southern lot to get to the flagpole, as opposed to the other option that we showed.
So there'd be a driveway, there would be a driveway through the lot to the right in order to get
Yes.
to the lot on the left.
Yes. Yeah, and what we're proposing is actually deeding that driveway area to the two rear lots, so that there's actually deeded access, as opposed to just an easement which exists right now.
Okay, any other questions? So I have an Andrew Weiss and a Paulette Weiss wishing to speak. Would you want to come up to the podium, please? And state your name?
My name is Andrew Weiss. I live at 108 Montauk Highway. My wife and I, Paulette, and I live at 108 Montauk Highway in West Hampton. And we're actually, could I
Yeah,
go?
you could point to it's right on the
Oh.
wall, the same maps.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Weiss. Yeah, this is us. We're along the entire, I guess, the south boundary of the property.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying we go by the most restrictive one, which is probably this one,
R20.
the art, that he said that,
Yes, because that divides
Right.
both lots will have R40
Right.
and R20.
okay, the first question I really asked doesn't really impact us that much, but this is the easement, and I know
Yeah.
we know what 15 Summit, well.
Right.
How would, first of all, I guess the biggest question is where would the houses go?
We're not sure, we haven't nailed down which configuration of map. He's showing you that one and the one below it,
Yes.
two configurations. Do you have a preference?
And they both are, but they're.
Well, the top map divides the lot this way, and the bottom map divides the lots this way.
So you would have one lot next to you in the upper one, and
Yeah,
you
don't
would
get
have
confused
two
with the
on the
zoning
bottom
lines.
one,
So this is a house and this is a house?
Yeah,
more or less.
And the other one is,
Same.
left and right.
Same, but left and right. Down,
The
or
one
down.
Go
lower
down.
is left and right.
Left and right.
Yeah.
I see. All right, well, we here, or here, right?
Right.
And in other words, when they come in, on this one, how would they get to this house?
They're using the same entrance.
This, yes, but then how are they gonna get past this house to this house?
There would be a driveway connecting through,
Yeah,
we don't know where yet.
the driveway would be split between the two lots. Half the driveway, it would
Yeah,
be
but the
one
lot-
driveway when it hits the
But this-
property.
But
Do you see the line that goes right in the middle there? right where your finger is, right above
This?
it. No, up, right
That
there.
one.
That's splitting it in half. So you come in and you would go to the right to go up, and the left to go north, south.
Okay. So in other words, but if there's two houses,
Yeah, one top, one bottom.
Right, it'll split off. The driveway that comes in will split.
and what about here?
That's
Yep,
one lot.
That's one lot.
And this is another lot?
No.
Forget the writing on there.
Yeah, you're getting confused with the zoning lines.
One lot on top, one lot on bottom.
Christine, council will show you.
This is one lot, and this is one lot.
I
Down
see.
here,
See,
this is a lot, and this is a lot.
Oh, so it's not really that much different, is
Well, you've got two next to you as opposed to one next to you.
it? I see. Okay, then I guess we're more concerned with the two, where would in either one, where would the houses be? You don't know.
Right in the middle.
They have
Right
to
in the middle of the
conform with
lot.
whatever setbacks.
Well, where is it set, how far are they gonna be set back?
You don't know yet because you don't know what you have to know the lot layout before you figure out what the building envelope is.
But at least there's always a minimum. I mean, they couldn't be, in either case, they couldn't be right next to what?
no,
No,
Right next
no.
minimum setback.
No,
I mean, is it 10 feet? Is it 20 feet?
Don't
that's
know
all.
offhand.
What's that? I know we have a setback from our fence. It's gotta be 10 feet.
I think it's 40 feet or 50.
This is R20.
Well, it's a split zone, so.
So
it'd be
what-
So it's
40
R20.
feet, I
Jim,
think.
can you respond to that?
But it's certainly more than 10 or 20 feet as far as the setback goes.
Let's see.
Mr. Weiss has the property borders the southern
Yeah, the entire
line
southern border.
of your property, of this property.
Of the entire lot.
So the top configuration would probably be the least impactful to
Yeah.
your home.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because
That's
One
only
lot.
one house behind
What's that?
it.
One.
it would be this house,
Yeah.
Yes,
as opposed to be this and this.
yes,
I
you got it,
okay,
you
I
got
got
it. You got-
It's
It's confusing. And we don't know what the setback is until we decide.
and yet could the house be here? Could the house be here? I mean, you can't tell me.
You can't tell, we can't tell you.
Well, when
I would think it's gonna be right in the middle.
be right in the middle. Like
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
This line doesn't mean anything.
no.
No.
I got it. But you know what? It's got to be set back from this
Yep,
one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll probably be somewhere
right in the
Right
right in
middle.
the middle of the middle.
Right,
That's
and we would require buffering along the southern line so
Yeah.
that
What does that mean?
Keep the trees and bushes.
trees and bushes planted
Well,
to.
we happen to have bushes and trees along our line already.
Mhm.
No, here. We're pretty much covered by trees here, and we have privet edges
Well,
here.
they'll be double now.
They'll be double.
Okay, does that
Okay.
answer your
Actually,
question?
Do you have any questions, hon?
You have to come up so
No,
the
you have to come
microphone
up to
can
the
get
mic
you.
Oh.
for the recording.
Oh,
What part of
you
the
don't
property would qualify as front yard?
I don't really know.
As
Do
these
you
would be,
know,
I think,
Brenna?
considered flag, these would be considered flag lots. I think we have the option of selecting what is the front yard and what's the rear yard, and then what's left of the side yard.
So this house, for instance, was just built, okay? And they have like terraces off the back of the houses. So if they
Can we
propose
see it?
to put
Brenna?
terraces off of one of these, specifically this, off the back, then technically that's overlooking
Yeah.
our house, our backyard. So it all depends on the construction of the house and which way, say, if they use that same design, because I believe it's the same builder. So if they use that same design and they put these overhangs in this high house, and then they're basically looking over our property.
Yeah.
Fence or no fence, you know. So
Which
it's,
is what the buffer is, the buffer which we would not object to would mitigate.
So you have to start out, you can't wait for the trees to grow. You have to start out with pretty tall trees, right?
Well, the planning board has been pretty good about avoiding planting 3-foot trees that are not gonna grow for 20 years.
well, they did
Say that
plant
again, I'm
trees
sorry?
along here.
What
Sir,
did you say?
sir, can you just speak to the planning board if you can, and then they'll
Oh.
ask him, okay?
Sorry.
Because otherwise the TV
Here,
can't
by the
pick it
mic.
up.
Speak into the mic.
Yes.
All right, so Did you say something about the trees? The planning board is good about, I didn't hear you, what you
Yeah,
said.
what he said was that when we specify buffers and trees, they're not little spindly things. We want more robust plantings.
Right.
Yeah.
I assume it's gonna be two-story homes?
Yes,
Well, that would be this, if they use the same design as what they used on
Right.
17,
Yeah,
then
right.
they would have that same overlook on the back of the
They
house,
would look at the
off
back.
the master and off of the.
So
Right.
they've noted that, they've noted that, Brenda has noted that you have buffering issues and making sure that any kind of visual impact on your house is seen is mitigated.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay?
okay. And then, just a question as a citizen, I mean, does that present any kind of a hazard? We have a flag lot off of Montauk Highway, and there are some vehicles that they come in our driveway and they say, how do you get an emergency vehicle in here? So that's my question,
Yeah.
because we live on a flag lot. We happen to have a very large round
Right.
driveway in the front and the emergency vehicles can come in. But I wonder about that one.
You know, the driveways are constructed to accommodate emergency. There's a whole
So-
standard in the New York State code.
So that's my concern,
Yeah, good.
and how it would affect us
Sure.
if there's a house that's that close to the property line.
So is it, you pointed out to me, thank you, that this would be preferable to us, but do we have any influence on
Were you
that?
stating a are
Oh,
you
you
stating a
are.
preference for either one of
What?
those plans?
You are, I mean, you're
Yeah.
saying, that you'd like buffering, you'd like to be protected from whatever is built there, and that goes into the record, so,
And that we prefer one house rather than two?
You can say that, yeah.
All right, so, but they don't really know, this house would probably be in the middle and we don't know where the front or the back is.
No.
That
Not yet.
doesn't really matter to me.
but your comments are duly noted. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this?
Zoom?
Anyone else on Zoom? Kevin?
we have one hand up.
Okay.
Yes, hello.
Hello. Please give us your names for the record.
This works in Curious Works, we own the house at 10 Court Court. So it's kind of abutting this property, if we're looking up at this picture on the left side of that picture.
This property is adjacent to our back.
Okay.
So we have the same concerns, but obviously we're in a different location. We actually sent a letter to the board, which hopefully you all have a copy of, the secretary told us they don't receive a copy of the letter from us. We're concerned about, number one, building anything on this lot. We don't know why this flag lot was created. I believe this property was probably part of some other property. I don't know why it was split, and then why there should be any building on this flag lot. In our view, there aren't too many flag lots in the neighborhood. The neighborhood zone is a particular way. The town code says that there should be a limited number of flag lots, and there are far too many flag lots in our neighborhood, causing overcrowding. So there are too many houses near our house already. There's a flag lot right next to our house, and so we are now looking at somebody's driveway that was built probably 15 years ago or 20 years ago. There's other flag lots that are kind of abutting other properties, and this is causing a blight on the neighborhood. So we don't think there should be any building to begin with on this property, one or two buildings. If for some reason you were to approve building here, we see no reason at all to allow them to subdivide the property. I don't understand why we would allow developers to move in, split properties up, and look for variances so they can line their pockets with more money to the expense of the neighbors in the neighborhood. We've already heard from two of us and the gentleman and lady who spoke earlier.
People should be able to just buy like 3-4 adjacent houses and recut the zoning, right? That's, I know that's a little bit more extreme than what's going on here, but that's really the slippery slope. Like, this is one lot, it's not built on, we don't think it should be built on. For sure, it shouldn't be subdivided.
And by the way, this.
We bought into a neighborhood with minimum 1 acre lots, right? That's the value that was attributed to our property, and now that value is being basically distributed to somebody else to move forward with this, and we strongly oppose this.
And by the way, the current size of the lot is already pretty much the minimum size for a flagpole lot in the neighborhood. The town code requires flagpole lots for this very reason to be larger than regular lots. So I believe it's 150% of the size of a regular lot. So the size of this lot even before the subdivision is barely over that 150%. And that's only if the building is allowed on flagpole lots. The town code says that there should be a limit for a flagpole lot in town. And there needs to be a good reason to have a flagpole lot. And so we haven't heard any reason here why there should be any building on this flagpole lot. I presume this was kind of created by subdividing some other property, and then they created this problem by creating this easement. They want to then transfer the property to somebody else. So this is a self-created problem. If you look at why you did any kind of variance, you have to look at the 5 different factors in the town code. Is there an undesirable change producing character?
This is the wrong board to be presenting those factors to.
Excuse me,
This
sir.
is not the zoning board.
Sir, you're not on the planning board. If the planning board would like me to not just say something, I'm happy not to, but I'm not.
I will defer to the chairman. Thank you.
But
Is it okay if we continue?
We're fully aware of the ZBA requirements, but we're here now for the planning board, and perhaps the applicant's attorney can address some of your concerns. Jim, would you like to refer to the code about how this property can be subdivided?
Well, the general requirement is the R20 is half acre and the R40 is a whole acre. We understand the issue with the 1.5 times, but that's really an issue for the zoning board, not the planning board. And as we demonstrated with one of our models, we can in fact come out with a 20,000 square foot lot and a 40,000 square foot lot, which meet the basic requirements of those two parts of the code. To decide that this property can't be developed at all is essentially a taking. My client owns the property. He's allowed to develop the property in the context of what the code says and what the zoning board may permit. But a blanket denial of his ability to develop this property in some fashion is a taking and is not appropriate. We could certainly we could
That's splitting it and making it more, our property less enjoyable and taking from us. That's basically.
no, not under the law.
Basically.
I'm addressing the question of the chairman. I'm not addressing.
At the way he wants it, he wanted to be split, and we're saying you need permission to make it split. That's
Just
why
tell them
we're-
to make their comments,
Sure.
because we're not gonna, like,
ZBA.
So
It should be directed to the board.
requesting this meeting by you, because you're requesting a variance to take from us. and
Comments
give
should
to
be
the
board.
Right. So, your comments to the planning board are heard. You've heard the code. You've heard what a taking is. You can take your comments to the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals, if that's necessary. But these people have a right to subdivide this parcel. So your comments are duly noted. Please, if you'd like, please write them. Send another letter. You did send one. And so,
And obviously we will do that, so thank you.
okay,
Chairwoman, I would say that if you do decide to subdivide this property, and we don't think you should, if you do, and we'll kind of pursue whatever legal avenues we need to keep that from happening. If you did decide to move forward, we believe the only way you should move forward is according to the zoning rules of R20, R4.
yeah.
We don't think there's any reason you should split it in the alternative A, the one that would then put 2 houses up right up next to our house.
Which is
Do-
in conflict.
Duly noted. We hear you. Your comments are recorded. They're in the record. Thank
very much.
you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wants to speak to this application?
That's all on Zoom.
No hands.
no hands.
You have to use the podium.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. You can turn that down. Well, quickly, please. Yes, we have a very large agenda.
I'm sure. Is it possible that they can consider only one lot, or one house, rather than two?
That's up to them.
Is it up to the developer?
Yes, it's not up to us.
So
This
they've
is what
already,
they're requesting.
What's that?
We take the applications as we get them. This is what they have requested, so this is what we will
but
opine
it,
on. The board
according to
will.
what Mr. Schwartz just said, that it's really not big enough for two houses.
It's 1.49 acres. So,
That's split into two, is that
Yes.
right?
okay. Any more questions from the board? Okay,
Motion to
we'll
close.
motion to close with a 10-day written comment period. Motion by Dennis, second by Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 4 in favor, 2 absent, 1 vacancy. Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
You also,
Bye, Jim.
Do we have notice on?
We do, Madam Chair.
We do.
Please, we do have notice.
We do have notice.
Please take notice in accordance with local law 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, June 27, 2024 at 6 p.m. Town Hall 116 Hampton Roads via video conferencing to consider the final application entitled Noyak Northview LLC. The application proposes a 4-lot planned residential development plan with approximately 6.891 acres of open space of a vacant 12.212 acre parcel situated in both the CR 80 and CR 200 zoning districts, Aquifer Protection Overlay District, New York State Archaeological Sensitive Area located in North Fields Court, within the hamlet of Noyak, tax map number 914-1-67.
Good evening, board members. Wayne Bruin, O'Shea, Marcinson and Bruin, Southampton, New York, on behalf of Noyak Northview LLC, and with us is Principal Mr. Morrow. The board previously reviewed this as a pre-application. Before us tonight is the final application, which is the plat that is located on the board on the top, on the far right. The application has been approved by the health department. As indicated in the notice, this parcel is approximately 12.2 acres or 532,000 square feet. It is in a split zone between the CR 200 and R80 zoning district. The property is vacant and wooded. There was an existing trail over the northerly portion of the premises. During the pre-app review, questions were raised about the alternatives. We presented a standard yield map, which yields 4 lots under the current zoning. The planning board preferred our cluster plan, which is what was presented now on the final plat. The cluster plan or planned residential development provides approximately 56% or a little about 6.8 acres or 300,000 square feet of open space that is contiguous to other already existing open space owned by the town to the north and west. In addition, we provided a strip along the westerly portion of our property as it goes south, which is also adjacent to an open space trail area already in existence in town ownership. 4 lots all front on Northview Hills Court, which was a subdivision street approved by the planning board in the map of Noyak, Northview Hills in the middle 1980s. That street was accepted into the town highway system and provides access and frontage to our 4 proposed lots. There are, the nearest public water main is on Noyak Road, a significant distance. The health department approved wells. As far as fire protection, the subdivision, there are 2 fire cisterns. I can point those out. One is located right here, approximately across from lot 3. The other is at the end of the cul-de-sac in close proximity to lot 4. During the pre-app stage, a couple things came up. One was that everyone thought the property was preserved. We were able to find in the records that the prior owners, the Foster family, had offered a term conservation easement to abate taxes for a number of years. Unfortunately, that term easement was never accepted by the town board. And nonetheless, the term was for 10 years, which it's now, by the time we purchased it, 20 years had passed. So the easement was never in effect, but no longer affecting the property, was never recorded against the property. That was number one. Number two is we learned that the Foster family had offered to sell the property to the town CPF program. And they declined the offer from the town at that time, and that's what resulted in our client purchasing the property. When we were considering the pre-application, the board made a suggestion. They pursue and ask the CPF program if they were still interested. My client did, and they came back with an offer that was not acceptable to our client. Thus, we proceeded to get health department approval, and now the final plat is before you. This board adopted a negative declaration. Part of the project, the trail that was there followed a certain path that would cross the corner of one of the lots, and we are proposing to relocate that, and that was reviewed at the pre-app stage with the Trails board, and they liked the plan. So we believe we submitted a final application that addressed all the concerns of the planning board and meets all the standards of the subdivision regulations, and we're here to hear any comments the board or the public may have.
You approve for wells?
Wells. Yeah, the distance, the public water is, a considerable distance up by Noyak Road.
Any other questions? Is Karen Beverly here, please?
I'm here on behalf of the homeowners at 55 Northview Hills Court, which is lot 16. Now, will each home have its own driveway, or is it common driveways?
Why don't you go through your list of questions and then council will take notes and answer.
Will the homes be put on the market as each is completed, or will they wait for all 4 to be completed? And are there copies of the building plans available for the homeowners that are located near them able to see? That's it.
Okay, we'll have Mr. Bruin respond.
So my client is pursuing a subdivision. He has no present plans for the development of each of the lots, nor has any specific house plans. If he sells the lot, it'll be up to the individual landowner to prepare their own plans. If he does develop them, he has developed several houses that this board has seen throughout the community, and they're very tasteful and would be probably consistent or with what we find in the neighborhood. As far as common driveways, I believe each of the lots will have their own driveway. They each have frontage. We did limit the driveway on lot 1, the northerly lot, to the southerly portion of the property where it's better sight distance around the turn. And I failed to mention that one of the requests of the neighborhood was that when the Northview Hills subdivision was approved, in addition to the customary clearing standards, you had required a 50-foot buffer to be provided along the street frontage. And the recommendation from the board at the pre-app was we consider that, and you'll see on the plan that we are proposing that 50-foot buffer. So the 50-foot buffer would be there, and the only thing that can cross that it would be the individual driveways. Nobody else.
Yeah, one other. Now, all the homes will be facing, the front of the house will be facing Northview Hills Court, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it, thank you. Any other questions? Is there someone on Zoom, Kevin? No one on Zoom. Any other comments?
Motion to close with a 10-day.
Motion to close this application with a 10-day written comment period.
Second.
Second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 4 in favor, 2 absent, and 1 vacancy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 3 is Ashley Capraro.
We have jurisdiction.
We have jurisdiction, and Craig, are you reading?
Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, June 27th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the pre-submission conference entitled Ashley Capraro LLC. The application is to convert the existing 3,500 square antique retail store into a non-medical cannabis dispensary and associated parking on a 36,211 square foot parcel situated in the highway business and New York State archaeological sensitive area located at 978 Montauk Highway within the hamlet of Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-101-3-49.
I believe it's the Watermill Hamlet. It's not Bridgehampton.
Correct, Watermill.
It's Watermill, yeah.
Good evening, Chairwoman LaFaro, members of the board. My name is Martha Reichert, Toomey Latham Shea, Kelly Dubin, and Quartararo, 33 West 2nd Street, Riverhead, New York, for the applicant Ashley Capraro, LLC. Since this is a pre-submission conference, would the board prefer if I come over here, or
No.
I can stay here at the podium? I prepared just sort of like a visual aid handout for because I know plans can get large and unwieldy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm joined online on Zoom by our Cannabis Council. So if we can have the Warren Rudick let in, that would be great.
You're co-presenting with him, or?
Well, in case the board has any questions regarding sort of general regulation, but of course, the purpose of a pre-submission conference is really to get feedback from the board so that we can incorporate it into an eventual, and the public, of course, an eventual site plan application. So what we have here is 978 Montauk Highway, which is in the highway business zone. It has previously been used as an antique store, so it has had a prior retail use. The proposal here is to use the principal structure for the cannabis dispensary, with the remaining areas of the store will be for storage and office associated with the cannabis use. There is an existing apartment on the second floor. However, pursuant to the town code's special permit standards, a residence is required to, there's a requirement for a 100-foot transitional yard setback from any residence, so it would be counter to the town code to be able to keep the apartment. I think that obviously one of the things that will be important as we prepare our site plan application, and again pursuant to the special exception standards, is doing a traffic impact study. So we're especially eager to get comments from the board with respect to what they want us to examine and the extent of the traffic impact study. We're already interviewing several different engineering firms, and once we sort of know the parameters of what the board wants us to look at, in case there's anything special, we'll go with that. In our submission materials, and also at the very last page of the handout that I gave you, the prior owner had at Armis prepare a proposed parking plan. And I don't think this will be the parking plan we go with, but it's sort of a discussion piece so that you can see that we can accommodate. There are 6 existing spaces and there's room for 18 under this layout. Again, I think another important part for this application will be getting the board and the public's feedback about traffic flow and circulation in the existing parking. Whether or not we have just an entrance only onto Montauk Highway and then have all traffic exit from Willow Street. I think that's something that this board, we'd like to get the board's comments and feedback and initial impressions so that we can work with a civil engineer to create the proper parking layout and flow.
Just so you know, the property across Willow is being developed.
I do.
So there's going
Yes,
to be
a 3,000 square foot
there.
medical building, and we've informed all of the different engineering firms that are creating proposals to us that they should take into account that proposed future development as well.
Right. Because the entrance will be on Willow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand that, and I've watched some of the planning board work sessions on it, and again, our plan is, and because it benefits my client just as much as it benefits the community to ensure that the traffic flow is safe and well thought out. So we intend to take into account the other application across the street.
Is there any residential use in it?
No. In fact, in the handout there, I have a 500-foot radius
Right,
map.
it's against the code.
There are, and so on this particular application, not only do we meet the state requirements for different setbacks and radius, but we also comply with everything in the special exception standards. There are no residences within 100 or 500 feet. There are no schools within 500 feet. There are no community facilities as defined under the code within 500 feet. And the applicant, Ashley Caparo LLC, has already received its license. Within that handout is updated today from the Office of Cannabis Management's proximity location map showing that we have a green leaf, which means we've received a permit and approval for this location, and that automatically implies that when the state reviewed the application, we met all of the proximity requirements under the state regulations as well.
What is the use of the accessory structure of the state's workshop now?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
What is proposed use for the accessory structure?
So the accessory structure was built in 1976, and it's been CO'd since then as a workshop. At this point, we have no real proposed use in that structure, so we're not proposing any change. The dispensary is completely going to be contained within the primary structure because there are, of course, security and lighting and different plans that we have to present to the state in order to receive the final green light to operate in that space. One of them is also receiving our municipal special exception and site plan approvals. So at this point, the structure is there, but it hasn't really been factored into our plans because it is a separate one. And of course, if you start separating, if you start putting the cannabis, dispensary use into two structures, then it complicates security plans. So at this point, we will work with the appropriate design professionals to have a compliant security plan that will be reviewed by the state. Our focus has been on just the principal structure.
So will the activities in the workshop be related to the dispensary, or are you going to lease it out to a separate operator to do separate work in the workshop? Or?
Any of that would require, a change in tenancy form from the town. So at this point, there aren't really many plans for it. I think another thing I would say at this point, there are no plans in that particular building. And of course, the thing that we are sort of concerned with most is ensuring that we have proper parking, proper traffic, and circulation flow within the parking area. So at this point, it's just it's something that we're looking at. If we can keep it and integrate it or potentially use it for another use, that we'll address it within the site plan application. But at this point right now, it's there on the property, but what we really want to focus on is the dispensary use in the principal structure and ensuring that we have the proper parking and traffic flow.
If that workshop becomes a separate use, then we've got a lot more.
I suppose it could under the code, or it could just remain as a workshop. It's not really a defined use within the code itself, but that's how it's been CO'd traditionally.
Has the property been purchased or are you leasing it?
Correct. The property has been purchased.
Purchased.
So at the time that we submitted, we were contract vendees. We've since closed on it. It is owned by a different LLC. So Ashley Caparo LLC is a tenant of the now owner of the property, but they're interrelated entities in that sense.
Okay. We do have someone who wishes to
I had
speak.
a- can I
I'm
ask a
sorry,
couple of
Tom.
questions?
Yes, please.
The layout on the back cover of your presentation, you mentioned you have the existing 6-space parking area, and then you have the 18-space parking area just beyond that. They don't look to be connected in this drawing.
No, they're not connected, and that's like I said. It was submitted purely as sort of to spur the conversation, because one of the things, if you'll also notice, is that there is a relatively new sanitary system right in the middle where you would connect those two lots.
Okay.
And so that's why I've said I don't know what will happen with that accessory structure, because first and foremost we'll be designing the parking lot, and if we're to not have an exit onto Montauk Highway, then clearly we need to connect those two parking areas and do some regrading on the property. So again, the board's feedback about what they would like to see, I believe that it would benefit from a connected parking, two areas. So that's again for the engineers to determine whether or not the sanitary system has to be redone, or if it will fly with the health department. If it has to be redone, then we'll move it to a different area, and we can connect those two areas. So it's one of those things where, again, we'll have to work it out with the engineers, but at this point, getting the board's feedback that they sort of think that we should have them be connected, and
And I do, obviously can't speak for everybody, but my thoughts would be to have that be in and only on Montauk Highway, an entrance only, connect them, as you said, have everybody go out on Willow, and I think we may, again, looking at what's happening across the street there, and we're going too far ahead of ourselves, but I believe having people make lefts out of Willow, onto Willow, so that they're not exiting onto
Onto the
Montauk
highway. Right.
from Willow. So we may have the traffic flow without having
Sure.
the direct exit onto Montauk Highway. So I think we're probably in general agreement on that one.
And the parking in the rear, I think, as you've indicated.
And the other thing is, based on sort of our back of the napkin calculations at this point, the 24 spots should be enough according to the retail parking schedules in the code, and we've confirmed with the planning department that because this is a retail use, it would have the same parking schedule as retail. So, we believe we have enough parking, but again, once we start, really working with the engineer and we're incorporating the board's comments with respect to flow and circulation within the parking area, we may be able to accommodate more parking or reconfigure it. But I think that at this point, even with the existing structures and layout, we can provide 24 spots and possibly more, depending on a little bit of a, further site redevelopment.
Tom, I was thinking that, I don't know the classification of Willow now, but I'm sure it's not a collector street, and if... Yes. The classification of Willow, I'm not quite sure what it is, if it's a collector street or less than that, but we now have two applications that are impacting it, and so we're going to have to look at that.
Right. It kind of serves as a collector because you have this, you have the Corwith facilities right behind that, you have these two sites.
Right, plus there's...
And the goal is to
barn.
send the traffic down out to Deerfield.
No, I agree that
Yeah.
it should exit on Willow. I'm just making a comment that
Yeah,
Willow
right.
may have to be upgraded because of the impact.
Right.
At some point it might be
Yes.
one way for that little strip at the top.
Right. That's right.
Okay,
And
let's...
Yeah, no, we discussed earlier, but one of the things, and I don't know whether how deeply to get into the traffic impact study question right now, but one of the things I would maybe want to give your engineers a little heads up, generally traffic counts and ins and outs, volume are based on ITE standards for
Correct.
retail, whatever else it may be.
And they actually have developed a formula for dispensaries.
Good. That
Yeah.
was going to be. I was going to ask
Yes,
them to see
yes.
if they could
It
collect
didn't exist
some.
until recently, but
Okay.
it does now. I read a traffic impact study from Westchester where the engineers said that they now have a formula for dispensaries. So they're
That's
not.
great.
Yeah.
Love to see that when it's the time.
Yeah, exactly. Just to address a couple of the other existing site conditions, there is mature screening on most sides of the property. I saw the comments from the CAC, and I also wanted to get the board's feedback. So on the northern property line and the westerly property line and the eastern property line, which fronts on Willow, there are hedges, there are mature trees, there are some, on the ground photos for you in that packet. So I think that one of the things that I would like to get feedback from you is whether or not you would want more screening on Montauk Highway. This is a historic structure, and that's something that we intend to honor as part of this application. This is it's a part of the Rose family, and there are parts of the house that are believed to have be as old as the late 1700s. So I saw also, concerns from the CAC about fenestration, facade. There are no proposed changes to the facade on Montauk Highway. We wouldn't have a sign there. It would really be, one of the nice things about having a historic building is that there's less of a question of does the building fit in with the character of the community? This is the character of the community, right? This sort of architectural vernacular. As you can see right now, this was actually part of a 2-lot minor subdivision in the 70s. And so I believe that that's when the corner may have been dedicated to the town. The town has never accepted the dedication, but you'll notice it on the survey, right? It says offer of dedication, town of Southampton, as per others, right? But more importantly, in terms of when you're looking at traffic safety and sightlines, is that we are already in compliance with corner clearance, and I think that's an important thing. I just sort of, from my armchair experience of being on this property, I agree with the board about limiting Montauk Highway to an entrance. There's a really beautiful old tree at the curb cut, and I think that the site is enhanced by keeping that tree. So if you don't have cars exiting, then it's not really an issue, right, in terms of visibility. But the intersection of Willow and Montauk Highway, while there is dense screening and vegetation there, the corner itself is pretty open and wide and has good visibility.
Okay, if there are no more questions from the board?
Well, would the board want to see screening along Montauk Highway?
I mean,
I think they wanna hear
my tendency is it's kind of fits what's there is kind of appropriate for Watermill.
Yeah.
Suggests the whole village. In fact, this afternoon's work session, we were talking about the orientation of the other building on the other corner, because all their presentation restored their parking lot. We said, hey, we'd like to establish some sort of a streetscape with an entrance and maybe a sidewalk, so.
Well, there's certainly room for sidewalks there. There isn't one now. I don't know if the gas station has sidewalks.
I think
It looks like they might.
Yeah, they do.
They have it.
And I'm trying to think if I have any other.
But
Question.
we work these out of the work session.
Yes,
Sure.
I mean, that's
Sure, of
just
course.
pre-submission, so. Okay, let me just get Rachel Verno here from the CAC, Watermill CAC. Rachel?
I was able to watch I was here So I was here for the work session. I had an opportunity to speak to Martha, and we've had this on our agenda now for 2 months in a row. So there wasn't, the questions that we had, some of them are general, which are probably more for Christine, and I recognize it's not planning board, but it's more
Rachel,
code with.
Speak up a little bit, please.
Oh, sorry. So there were some general questions in terms of the dispensary and the laws around the dispensaries. Last year, there were a lot of letters of intent with a couple of different buildings that had been identified in Watermill, including Calissa's, the Scuttle Hole Business Park. So one of the main question that came up for all the CAC members, or some of the CAC members and residents, were how many dispensaries could potentially be within a hamlet. I know you have the one in Bridgehampton. Some of us had less concern about that, and sort of, depending on how well a business does, you'll see whether or not you have dispensary, 2 or 3 within a hamlet. Sort of uncharted territory for all of us, so we don't really know how much traffic will be there, how many people will be there, how much, that will change the sort of a novelty in the beginning to have a marijuana dispensary. It's not that unique anymore in terms of our community. There weren't really any objections in terms of a dispensary at this location. Some of the other general comments that came up.
You had a security question.
We had security. We also had, the big thing also that came up was consumption. And I know there aren't consumption bars, I don't think, within Watermill. But smoking marijuana is legal, as is smoking cigarettes or cigars, etc. So there were some questions as where on that site. I'm assuming the applicant doesn't want smoking within the parking lot, but there's sidewalks, you walk down the street, go down to the hamlet. So again, I recognize it's not a planning board issue, but those are issues connected to marijuana dispensaries that at some point, I think the town is going to start to have to address. So I just want everybody to sort of be aware of that. The other thing that came up was the fact that there had been apartments and living at that location, and our CAC is all for having apartments and living wherever we can. It's so scarce in Watermill. So I don't want to complicate an application, and I know that's not something that's legal right now, but if and when that was something that was considered within a property, I recognize the importance of not having a new dispensary next to a residence and having that buffer, but if it's actually a building or structure that can accommodate housing, that accessory building as some sort of affordable housing or workforce housing, everybody was in support of that. So I just want the board to know that, because
And the code prohibits that.
yes, no, I said I know the
Okay.
code currently, but if for some reason within a structure, I recognize that you can't place a new dispensary next to a residence, and there's that buffer.
No, but there can't be a residence in the
Right.
same building.
But if for
Yeah.
some reason that
If it ever
changes
changes.
within the code,
Yeah, if it changes.
we were all in support of that. The biggest questions came up really with traffic and circulation, and Tom is on that traffic mitigation committee. So we're all aware of the medical building. Willow right now has not had a lot of traffic on it. You've got Corwith's, you've got Gallagher's. It's really low traffic generating businesses. So some questions that came up, and it sounded like Martha had some information about how a business like this operates in terms of how many trips are generated on a daily basis. Does that change weekly, during the weekend? There were some questions about hours of operation, days of the week. I know that's all in the code. But I guess we'll sort of leave it all up to the traffic engineers, but it's certainly a concern with, is the traffic going to be funneled into the back roads? How are you making left turns onto the highway there? We had a conversation yesterday about all the left turns onto Montauk Highway, and there's going to be a lot now between a medical building and the marijuana dispensary. So again, we leave that up to the board to decide where you want parking and what the best circulation is. But that's something that's a concern for all of us. We're excited to hear that the building's going to stay the same, because we love that structure, and we're glad to hear that. We're hoping there can be some protections for the facade, and that those windows aren't changed, or if they have to be changed, they stay within keeping of the pane glass. We're having a real issue in Watermill now with all the stores sort of getting around dark skies compliance by having all the lighting on inside the windows during the stores all night, with the windows being switched out to the picture frame. So we hope that this could be addressed, and I don't see any reason why there'd be lighting on in a dispensary during the night, but all the real estate stores and all of that's doing that. And I guess the other questions just had to do with whether or not you felt screening was or wasn't appropriate. We like the openness of the building out front. It's a beautiful building. So they really were sort of very general questions about security. Is there going to be 24-hour security? What sort of lighting has to be there at that building? I can't remember. I know the gas station, I don't think it's open all night, but it's pretty lit up, I think. So those sort of questions.
Okay.
There aren't any, but thanks.
Good, thank you, Rachel. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this application? Or someone on Zoom? Kevin?
No hands.
No, no hands? No one in the audience would like to speak? So this is a pre-submission, so that's 30 days. A motion to close with a 30-day written comment period by Dennis, second by Craig, all in favor. Opposed, abstentions, 4 in favor, 2 absent, 1 vacancy. Thank you, thank you. We have Trotta, Council? Do we have,
We
have
do,
sufficient
Madam
notice
Chair.
on Trotta? Tom, are you reading Trotta?
Yes. Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, June 27, 2024, at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the pre-submission conference entitled Trotta Restaurant. The application proposes construction of a patio enclosure with outdoor dining on a 73,831 square foot parcel currently improved with a 2-story building with restaurant on the first floor and 2 apartments on the second floor, situated in the highway business and New York State archaeological sensitive area located at 1020 Montauk Highway within the hamlet of Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-102-1-21.3.
For the applicant, David Gilmartin Jr., Greenberg Trog, 2317 Montauk Highway, Bridgehampton. I guess this is the third in the triumvirate of properties right next to you. This is 2 lots down from the one you just heard. And you heard about the medical office building this afternoon. This is an existing restaurant, and it's located in the Highway Business Zoning District. We're here for a pretty limited expansion for the outdoor area. There is an existing administrative site plan approval that was given. However, we want to cover the top of it. We're required to come to the board for that, and we're also adding additional bathrooms to the facility. This property has been back and forth with the town quite a bit. We're here because the new owners were able to purchase it, and I know Dennis is going to ask me, and the answer is yes, that we're willing to give cross access. The prior owner was not willing to, so we were really at loggerheads for a while. So now we're here. It's a pre-submission conference. Sean can run through the details a little more in depth, and I'm happy to listen to the public and work through this process with you guys. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
It's very nice to be able to actually present.
Sean?
Good evening, Sean Leonard, architect for the project. So yes, this is we're proposing a covered outdoor dining space. That would be, basically, I already have the dining area here. They've been, they have an administrative permit for a tent. So they have the outdoor dining under a tent. So instead of having this tent, the thought would be they would have a roof covered space. This way they can have some outdoor dining with a bar, and then the restrooms as well. So this way it'll all be kind of tied together. People wouldn't have to be traipsing into the building to go all the way to the other side for the restrooms.
Is there sufficient flow here for additional bathrooms?
Yes. In fact, the sanitary system that was just recently put in, it was all upgraded, took into account for that type of flow.
So it's an AI system?
Yes. It's a.
Is there going to be like half walls under the dining area, or is it just completely open?
Completely open.
Open. Just a roof covered.
Just a roof covered area, just so that people can have want to have that outdoor dining experience. Just the roof covered area, at least will give them that kind of that protection from the elements, and still have the
So
outdoor view.
no sidewall.
No sidewalls.
So
Can you zoom in one more?
when the deck, when this was originally approved, there was no outdoor deck. I remember the CAC in Watermill
Yes.
was very clear about they didn't want loud music, etc. Understood. And somehow an administrative plan a deck got built and a tent got put over it. So we would condition it that there be no outdoor music, that there not be any of that, because you're right in a residential neighborhood. So I don't know if Rachel is going to speak to it or not, but the C.
But I know.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, and I will say that residents
Okay.
do talk about that.
Right.
Are you increasing the size of the deck?
Yes. It would, right now, the tent goes right here, over the more of the northern part, that northwestern part. And so it would encompass the existing patio and so encompass that whole area. This way you'd be able to walk out from the existing restaurant into that covered space.
And you have enough parking here.
Yes, in fact, we have plenty of room to expand the parking. What we're not looking to do is we're looking to transfer. People want to be outdoor dining, right? So really, what's going to happen is there'll be very little indoor dining. It'll all be going to the outside.
And you'll do cross-access, because we're going to get cross-access from the lot next to you
Yes.
to the west.
And it would be nice to see if there was some way to, we're going to probably request a sidewalk, the new building next door to you, and probably of the applicant that was just out here. It'd be nice to find a way to connect that. We see you have a concrete walk in front of this. I don't know if that replaces a sidewalk or could be tied into a sidewalk.
Could be right of way.
Or it could be additional in the right of way. But especially with those two businesses, hopefully, or probably coming in, I should say, hopefully, probably coming in, it'd be a very nice connection. Might be very good for your folks' business. Because you might be having some hungry customers in those two other businesses. So
I guess not familiar with what the neighbor has proposed at the moment. We would just have to work it out as to where that lines up with this property.
Yeah.
Right.
But we're looking for pedestrian walkways.
I understand.
I think that's it.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this? Is there anyone on Zoom? No, Kevin? Okay. So it's pre-submission, so a 30-day written comment period. David, did you want to say anything more?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, we'll close with a 30-day written comment period by motion by Dennis, second by Craig. All in favor? Opposed, abstentions, 4 in favor, 2 absent, 1 vacancy.
Some umbrellas might be nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Bridgehampton Coral, covenant amendment.
Who's reading?
You are, Dennis. Yeah.
We
They
have
have notice.
notification.
Please take note that in accordance with local law number 14, 2022, a public hearing will be held by Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, June 27th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Town Hall 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the covenant amendment entitled Bridgehampton Corral Lot 1, the application for an amendment to covenants and restrictions associated with the subdivision to eliminate the 50-foot buffer affecting Lot 1 located at 275 Narrow Lane within the hamlet of Bridgehampton, tax map number 972-1-4.5.
Good evening, board members. Timothy S. McCauley of Council DeBurke and Sullivan, 41 Meeting House Lane, Southampton. Before I get too deep into this is a covenant amendment. I need a majority plus 1.
We're just
Well,
taking
this
hearing
is just
today.
public hearing. This is not.
Okay.
We can't act on
We
it.
can't act.
So we can,
Yes,
others can participate?
yeah.
When we act on it.
When we're in regular session. This
Okay.
is public hearing.
Okay.
It's required.
All right. Anyway, this is a property that's, I don't know if it's up here or not, but the property is on Narrow Lane in Bridgehampton. It's about 335 feet east of Norris Lane. The subdivision of which this is a part was a 3-lot subdivision, was done in 2012. And then in 2012, there's a common driveway that we take access off. And one of the things the planning board did at the time was impose a 50-foot buffer along Narrow Lane on this one lot. And we're here tonight to say it also required natural vegetation, but in 2016, the board amended that because it was being farmed. And you said, okay, as long as it's being farmed, it's okay. But then you have to reimpose the 50-foot buffer. Excuse me. So we're building on that lot now, and we want to address this 50-foot buffer, which I don't think is really necessary. If you look at along
Is
Narrow
that the
Lane.
lot to the south, or the one? This one?
Yes,
the person.
the first lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's talking about natural vegetation, but there wasn't any vegetation on there all along. And now it's all overgrown.
Yes, I drove by the other day, yeah.
Yeah, it's very overgrown and a mess, and we want to fix it up. In return for removing the buffer, we would enter into a covenant that says we have to maintain an evergreen screening along Narrow Lane.
At what depth are you proposing?
I'm sorry?
How much of a depth?
That's up to you, I
25
guess. I've
feet?
got 20 feet,
25 feet? Yeah.
20 feet, whatever.
So you come
But
in
it-
with a planting plan?
I'm sorry?
You come in with a planting plan?
If you're in the mind to reduce it down to 20 feet or something, yeah, sure.
You know,
And I'm
there-
going to need a little bit of relief on that common driveway, because I'm going to suggest that we have the evergreens along Narrow Lane. I don't know what's intended to go up the common drive, and I want it to all be, the same. But I think I can address that in language in the covenant or on a plan.
Okay, when you get the two pieces together, right?
Yeah.
I drive by there quite a bit, and I think that particular location, there's a lot of flooding along
does.
the road.
It
There,
does.
and I'm supposing that maybe the buffer was intended to help control the flooding or something.
I don't think so, because it doesn't control it.
It doesn't, right. It's obviously not working. I was just
Yeah.
curious if, as
Well,
part
one
of this
stop I
process-
intend to make on behalf of the client is go to talk to the highway superintendent and see if something can be done about on the road there. And if they have to contribute towards getting something done, I think they'd be interested in doing it. But you're absolutely right.
You're reading my mind. That's like the bad spot. I don't quite know why, but yeah, if there was some way to work with the highway department, as I said, I thought maybe that was why they did that buffer to absorb the water, but
I don't think
the
so.
The ag piece probably
Okay.
helped
I think
generate some of the flooding.
Yeah, but I think some of the, back in, 10, 15 years ago, and you can correct me if not, but there were several places where along the road you wanted some kind of a buffer from the house to the road.
Yeah.
And you were imposing these things, like I know you did it up on Hill Station Road, and I came before you and you reduced that buffer. So I'm looking for 20 feet, but I'll take 25 if that's what you feel comfortable with. It is,
and if you go work with the highway superintendent, highway department, that would be great.
yeah, I'm going to go over there and see what we can do. I'm sure they're going to say they don't have the money, so we'll have to see if we can work something out.
Good, great.
Good. There
Okay.
isn't anybody left in the audience to speak. Is there anyone on Zoom? No one on Zoom. Entertain a 10-day written comment period. Motion by Craig, second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 4 in favor, 2 absent.
Motion to adjourn.
1 vacancy. Motion to adjourn by Dennis.
Okay.
Second by
And th-
Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
And then we're gonna have an afternoon session to figure out what's going on.
Yes.
I'll get a plan together for it
Okay,
and give it to Anthony.
let me finish the
Yeah.
and then
vote,
I'll give it
please.
to you. Okay.
4 in
Thank you. Good
favor,
evening.
2 absent,
Bye, Tom.
1 vacancy, we are adjourned.